If you think using ChatGPT to write your emails is implementing AI into your business, then you're probably going to get left behind. Today I'm going to walk through why I think 90% of companies are going to fail at AI and how you can stay ahead. And I'm going to give you the 4 main AI agents that have been implemented into businesses right now. I'm going to go through the capabilities, I'm going to go through examples, pros and cons, the lot. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to do actual tutorials, sat down live on a actually laying out how you build them. All right. So let's just start off with you. All right. This is probably you. Using AI to write letters and emails, make pictures of your dog, and learn about random topics. And that's fine. That's great. You're actually using AI, learning about it, and that's fine. But this is not AI automation. This is not what an AI agent is. Okay. Saying that it is like saying that because you've sat in a racing car that you're now a racing car driver. It's the same car, but it's a different driver. All right. At the moment, you're driving the AI when the AI should be driving itself. For example, if you're using it to write, generate cool DM copy, that's great. But if you had a lead scraper, collect a bunch of LinkedIn leads, put it onto Google Sheet, you could have a personalized outreach agent, right? You could instead of writing emails with ChatGPT, you could have an AI automatically responding to your emails and organizing them. So it can go as far as even implement into a CRM. So when you get a lead through, you're not having to check every single email you get because it can just put it into a Trello board or a Jira board or whatever, and you've already got that lead laid out, which you can go and call back. And in a minute, we're going to talk about AI sales agents to where you don't even need to answer and pick up calls. The AI can do that. If you're asking it for tutorials and help, me internally, I do it with the team. I always say, if you ask ChatGPT first, if you ask Grok, ask it first. If it's a technical issue that you're having, ask AI first. However, the problem is with that is you're doing it manually. All right. But if you have a team, you can have an agent that's trained on your company to actually do these things for you. So keep that in mind. So let's go through the 4 main AI agents in business right now. So the first one is a customer call handling agent. This essentially picks up and answers calls. It can either call people or it can answer calls, okay? So the main capabilities of these calling agents is it takes calls, it qualifies leads, and it can book appointments. It has a professional voice and it has 24/7 availability. I guarantee you, none of you have 24/7 availability, and all 24/7 hours in that day, 24 hours in that day, you have the same professional voice, which an AI can have. And it can also be integrated into a wider automation workflow. Like I just mentioned, these things can be connected to different areas of your business. It's not just a sole thing block on its own. These can be integrated into a full automation system across your business, right? So let's look at some examples. So at a call center for sales, all right, you've got a team of 100 people, okay? The majority of the calls they're answering aren't really in-depth calls that need a human assistant. They could have an AI that's trained on all your company docs, your SOPs, and any technical information that it might need, and it can answer and deal with those queries. We can see here Interface.ai, which is an actual SaaS platform that's dedicated to these calling agents for sales, for call centers, resolves 60% of calls without any human input. Which means if you've got a team of 100, the normal, say, 100 calls that you can manage, 60 of them have just been taken off your team. They don't have to worry about it. So your team now can actually work on the things that they need to. And also it's going to improve a bunch of metrics across your business, because how many of us have sat there on a sales call or whatever you call it, you're speaking to a chat support or a help center, and you sat on hold for an hour and it's the most frustrating thing. But that's because the majority of calls are just nonsense. They're not really that complex and can be dealt with like that, all right? And in general, these call agents are for sales and support, right? But they do have other use cases, but generally it's for appointment booking, lead qualifying, and answering general calls, all right? So the main pros is it never gets tired. Unlike a human, it will never, ever get tired. It can handle a high volume of calls, even on like sort of a human level. After a call, especially a long one, us humans, we need a little break. We want to breathe or go and get a coffee quicker, go and get a drink. The AI can just end the call, next call, next call, next call. It has a consistent tone. It's never in a bad mood. It can be trained on company docs. So you might have an intern you've just hired and they're learning, they don't know everything about your company, or even if you're doing it yourself, you might not actually have every single piece of data just to spew out while you're on site as if you're a construction worker, all right? But these AI agents can be trained on your entire company knowledge base, right? And also, if you're using things like ChatGPT, it has access to all the world's knowledge. So you can open it up, so when it's answering calls, it has context about literally everything in the world. It can be built into a wider automation workflow, like I've just mentioned. It can be completely customized to speak in whatever accent, voice that you want it to speak into. And once it's set up, it can, most of the time, have very, very little management needs. If you're working with an agency like us at Valenzis, Just because I've mentioned Valentis then, if you want any of the resources in this video and in future videos like slideshows, templates, actual pre-built automations, go to valentis.ai/resources. I am going to ask for your email, but apart from that, I'm not going to, sell your data or anything, and I'm not going to spam you with marketing emails. It's just a little lead magnet tactic. But if you want any of these resources, go to valentis.ai/resources. Anyways, back to the video. And there's plenty of us out there. I'm not trying to promote myself there. If you've got a good agency that know what they're doing, obviously there'll be testing and fine tuning, there will be bugs and things that need fixing, but generally from sort of you as a business owner or you as someone that wants this in your setup, you probably won't need to manage it that much. Now, the tools for this are going to be, actually I'll go into the cons. It lacks human empathy for complex emotional queries, so depending on your use case, this is very dependent on your business. It does lack human empathy. So in the case of Interface.ai resolving 60% of calls, the calls that would need a human, you've got 40% of calls there completely open up there for a human to actually deal with. So it depends on your use case, so do be careful of that. It requires oversight for sensitive cases. If you're in a medical practice, for example, if you're in like an aesthetics clinic, a dental clinic, you don't want an AI just spewing out random nonsense about, that's completely wrong. So you're in specific cases where it is very sensitive information that you're going to be, talking about across these calls, you might have to be a bit more careful. Cost can spiral as well. Again, this is completely case dependent, and when I do a full tutorial on how to build this, I will go into depth on the costs, how much it's going to cost you, and what things you can cut down to make the cost a little bit cheaper. But if you're, for example, answering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls a day, depending on how many different AI models that you connected into it and how big the system is, costs can spiral if you're not careful. And again, they can make mistakes, right? It is AI, these are automations, these are computers, they aren't completely human, so they are going to make little mistakes here and there, and that's why it's always best to work with an agency that knows what they're doing, or if you want to implement it yourself, watch tutorials like the ones I'm going to make, and there's plenty of other tutorials out there. All right, so the main tools we're going to use for this are Twilio, N8N, and Make. All right, now Twilio is the phone. Essentially, you can basically create a custom phone number. Again, I'll go into a lot more depth in Twilio. It's really cool. But Twilio also has a feature called Voice API. So it's actually an AI agent that will speak to the person. But to make this into an actual agent, we need N8N, which is where we train it. This is where we connect the Twilio API. And this is essentially the brain, okay, of the agent. And then Make.com is sort of the top level automation for the triggers. All right. So if you've got an appointment booking call handling agent, someone rings up your tattoo studio and you're like, hey, can I book in a tattoo? I want, next week. And he goes, yeah, we've got Monday at 12, Tuesday at 5, you can do that. And then when they're like, yeah, can we do Tuesday at 12? That N8N will then send the trigger to Make.com, and then Make.com will book that into your calendar, whether it's Google Calendar, Calendly, whatever booking system you're using. And it'll also take all the information from the call that's important, like the name, what kind of tattoo they want, and it can actually learn, in specific cases, if you work with an agency that know what they're doing, they can actually train the model to actually know if they say, I want a full sleeve tattoo, to book out a full 8 hours in the day, or book a quick call with you personally so you can actually, work out what they want. So there's a lot of wiggle room, but they're the main tools you're going to use. So I would, before we carry on, just go and check out Twilio.com, N8N.io, and Make.com. All right, so next up we have a DM and email response automation. Essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like. It responds to messages, very similar to the call handling, but it's based on chat, right? It has contextual replies on email, SMS, WhatsApp, and social media. It maintains your brand voice, and it nurtures leads, and it runs itself. Again, these systems run on their own. These can go all the way from, like, if you see people say in, like, on a TikTok video saying, comment AI for a free PDF, and then you comment AI, and then you get a comment response saying check your DMs, and then you've got an automatic DM, and then it'll say, do you want anything else, or would you be interested in a call? They're all AI automations, all right? The examples that we've got laid here is if we've got a big, massive, long list of emails scraped from LinkedIn, for example. Like I mentioned at the start of this video with the examples of the racing car driver, this is the AI agent that will be doing that for you. It'll be doing the reach out for you. It can also scan someone's LinkedIn profile, and then, instead of just saying, hey, would you be interested in cheap timber? It could say, hey, Peter from Wilmslow. I noticed he did a project in wherever. I really think you could have done with some cheaper timber. For example, it's a really bad example, but you know what I mean. You can really personalize your outreach, and again, it's automated. It's doing it itself. You don't have to manage it. Just make sure it's not spewing nonsense, all right? And then for e-commerce lead nurturing, if you're reaching out to people selling an e-commerce project, it can be completely personalized to them. Again, it can be reaching out to these people, selling products, and yeah. So the pros of this are it handles thousands of messages at once, consistent branding, so it's always going to speak with a professional tone and reinforce your key branding messages and your marketing strategy. It massively increases your conversion rates because you can reach out to a lot more people with much higher quality messages. And again, it runs 24/7. I don't just want to keep repeating myself, but they just run 24/7, all right? The cons of this, it does need a precise workflow design, especially when you're doing personalized outreach. You've got to make sure that it's not spewing nonsense, and sometimes it's been set up wrong. It can start spewing out system prompts, so it'll literally start spewing out the things you've told it to say. So you've got to be careful about that. It may miss nuance intent. If you've got very specific niche use cases for this, it may completely miss the mark and start chatting nonsense. If someone's asking really complex questions or not very good, shut up, asking very bad questions or very complicated questions, it may mess up. So this is something you've got to be, careful of when you're building any AI system. If they do make mistakes, all right? And again, costs can spiral that monitoring because it's text rather than calling. The chances are you're going to be dealing with a lot more text, especially email. I get emails all the time, and if you've set it up to just respond to emails, if you get 100 marketing emails a day, it's going to respond to the marketing emails as well, which you don't want it to, and that's going to cost you, especially if it's using like ChatGPT or Claude. So be careful with that. The tools we're going to use, exactly the same tools, but just slightly different features. Twilio, we're going to create a WhatsApp phone number through Twilio. The only thing you'll need for Twilio, by the way, is your passport to set it up, but once it's verified after a day, I think it's 1 to 5 days it takes, but normally for me it's like 1 to 2 days. But once that's set up, you've got basically a free WhatsApp number. We build the agent on n8n, and then all the email flows. If you want to organize your emails, if you receive an email and you want to put it into a folder as well as notifying your team, that'll all be through Mate.com. All right. Next up, we have a creative generation system. Essentially, this is a marketing team or a marketing employee, but it's automated and it is really cool. All right, so it can generate ad creatives, it can do text, and it can do images. All right, there's some really, really high-end models at the moment, like DALL-E I've got down below, as well as Gemini and Sora that can create images and videos. And Google Veo has just been dropped and for video, and it is insane. All right, I don't know if it's quite ready for an automation, Google Veo, to make like adverts, but the text generation, image generation is like bob on. Okay. You can also do A/B test and adapt, and it can make it adapt based on performance. So depending on who you're working with and if you do it yourself, how complex you want it to be, it can read through your Google Analytics, your Instagram Analytics, what performs better, and reinforce that and train it to constantly iterate so you've got a perfect marketing strategy that's all automated. And again, it runs itself, okay? So for some examples, if we connect n8n and DALL-E, it can create different ad variations. So this is not a completely automated agent on its own. In this context, it's a tool that you can use while you've created one ad creative, or you've gone to an agency and they've made you an Instagram post or a template. You can then use this to you put the ad creative in, and it'll create all the different variations for different social media platforms. And then in the second case, a much more bigger campaign is you can train it on your campaign, your goal, where you want it to go, where you want people to click. And then again, you can set it off and it can just run. You can be as big and small as you want it to be. The pros of this is it's a lot more cost effective than working in agencies from someone that used to work and still runs a creative agency. It's rapid iteration. You can keep iterating on ad creatives rather than having to go back and forth with amendments with an agency. And it's data driven. If you build it right, you can get it to constantly look at the data and iterate on that. The cons, it lacks creativity. Okay, it's not a human, it's an AI. So unless you know how to prompt very well, even if you engineer your prompts really well, it's still not going to be a human doing it. So I'd always recommend start with something a human's created when you're inputting it into these systems, and then let it go from there. Fully automated CGCs are complex and then do need someone who knows what they're doing to build. And that doesn't mean you can't build it. You can definitely try and build yourself one. But if you want something that's ready for production, ready for your company, especially if you're dealing with, you've got a lot of presence on social media, you don't want to alienate that audience that you've spent a long time building by spewing out nonsense. All right, so do be careful of that. And there's sometimes content could be low quality, like I just said. If you've not prompted it well, you've not built it right, especially if you've spent a long time building a personal or a business brand, it can ruin it. So be careful about that. And finally, we have an appointment and follow-up orchestration. This, in my opinion, is the most important one that anyone right now, you should just be thinking about implementing, okay? It books, reschedules, and sends reminders, okay? It's personalized follow-up via email and SMS, and it captures lost leads. So this is very similar to the text and call handling agent, but its specific purpose is capturing lost leads. If you've got people that have got in contact with your business but have maybe not got back to you, they're not interested, or maybe they've gone to someone who's better, cheaper, or they think's better and cheaper, the majority of companies probably have some sort of SOP where it's like, hey, if someone doesn't get back to us, we need to message them, check if they're okay. But a lot of the time it's low quality. And for a lot of companies, that is a big drain of revenue, the lost leads. What these systems can do is they can have a list of people that have been in contact that can be automatically generated, so it can be all automated, and it will actually get in touch with those people using Twilio, N8N, and Make. It'll get in touch with those people and say, hey, you're not messaged in a few days, is everything okay? And then basically it turns into an FAQ bot that knows everything about your company. And then when they start asking questions, it essentially sells them with your key selling points. It can you compare how you're better than a competitor. There's really so much room you can grow in one of these systems. For example, this one here, it books meetings and it sends SMS follow-ups from CRM. So we've all seen notifications via SMS. They're very normal. They're not necessarily AI. But once you build an AI into those notifications, follow-ups, if someone's booked a call and they're a no-show and you want to get them onto a call really fast, or they've been like, oh, we're not sure right now, we're going to think about it. Instead of that being a completely lost lead because you've not got enough time to go back to that person, you can go back automatically and try and re-get them over the line, right? So the main pros is error-free scheduling. So there's never going to be I missed your call, or I completely forgot. It just reminds them. It reminds them when the call is, or when the meeting's booked, or when the session is booked, all right? And also I've done it before where someone's rung up or emailed and I've booked in a meeting and I put it on Google Calendar wrong and I completely missed the meeting, and it's really frustrating. And with these systems, that never happens, all right? It's scalable. So it doesn't matter whether you've got 5 follow-ups you need to do, or 1,000, or even 1,000,000. I don't think you'd have 1,000,000, but if you did, if you're very successful, fair play, you can keep doing it. Doesn't matter how much your company grows, you're not going to have to hire new people and pay for big agencies to handle it for you. These AI systems just naturally scale up no matter what, all right? You never lose out on a possible lead ever again. Every single possible opportunity that your business has to close someone is never going to be lost. I'm not saying that it's going to be 100%, it won't be, but your conversion rates are going to increase massively because every single person that sniffs near your business is going to get a follow-up message, and they're going to be hopefully closed. And if not, you at least know then that person is definitely not interested in your services, okay? And it's trained on your company. Again, these systems through N8N, we can build a knowledge base as big as you want. If you want to look into things like Airtable, I know N8N do have databases and a cloud to host all this information yourself. We use our own servers for hosting, but you can use things like Airtable. That's a really interesting thing to look into. You can build your own apps and databases. Again, I'm going to go through all this on video, so you don't need to worry if you're a bit confused. And then the cons, it's a complex multi-tool workflow. It can get complicated depending on how, again, this is more dependent on your use case, like I keep saying, but it can get really complex. So either make sure you do your own research and learn it well, or speak to an agency like us, or there's plenty of other agencies that do a really good job as well. And yeah, it requires expert configuration. So what this will do if you implement any or all of these AI agents is it unlocks the multiplication effect. This is essentially where you're not getting rid of a job. I mentioned this in my previous video. A lot of people are talking about AI replacing jobs, and absolutely, for the big corporations who have 5 social media managers, when they can implement one of these agents, absolutely it's going to replace jobs. There's going to be, I can't remember what bank came out and said roughly 50 to 60% of the workforce is going to be replaced. It's very scary, and the middle class is getting completely wiped out. But as a small or medium-sized business, you can use this technology to scale your team and multiply your team's capabilities without having to hire more people or having to fire anyone. So if you've got a team of 3 doing sales or admin, you can have that team turn into a team of 30 based on their capability from the multiplication effect without actually increasing your cost that much. Yeah, you'll be paying for AI usage. If you're working with an agency like Valentis, you will be paying us, but you'll be paying a lot less than hiring 30 more people. So that's just something to remember, okay? So again, whilst the majority of you, maybe not you, or I don't want to insult you, but there is people out there still using ChatGPT and AI manually, all right? They think that they're a race car driver sat in the race car, okay? But your competition And hundreds of thousands, if not millions of businesses are already using AI agents to scale rapidly. So please wake up, all right? That's about it. I'm not going to waffle on too long. How long have we been going for? 20 minutes. The first recording I did of this was 45, so hopefully I've kept this nice and concise and clear for you. Again, not to make this a little sales pitch, but if you are interested in AI automation in your business, then you can go to Valentis.ai. Otherwise, there are plenty of people online and plenty of agencies out there that do just as good job as us. Maybe not as good, but you know. But yeah, and if you want to see more videos like this, learn more about AI, and like I said, there's going to be some tutorials coming up soon, actually just showing you how to build these systems for free, then subscribe to the channel. And yeah, see you in a bit.